Welcome to LeaderIQ, where we share the stories of leaders in brand and retail, so you can learn what led them to find success in their careers, while giving you an intimate look at how they made foundational decisions along the way. This show is hosted by Guru Hariharan, who's the founder and CEO of GoGo. Guru spent most of his career working as a leader at companies like Amazon and eBay, before becoming an entrepreneur himself. This podcast is brought to you by GoGo, a company which Guru started in 2019 that has become the e-commerce operating system for brands like Logitech, Johnson & Johnson, Kellogg's, Mars, Duracell and many more. If you're interested, check out commerceiq.ai to learn more. With that, let's get to the show. Today's guest is Mark Edmonson, Chief Marketing Officer of GoGo squeeZ. Guru and Mark dive deep into Mark's early life, where he learned the values of accountability and focus while growing up on a farm in Louisiana. From his love of problem solving, he went from interning as a computer scientist at Microsoft to becoming a digital marketeer at P&G. Since then, Mark has continued his incredible career path at companies like Campbell's Soup and Henkel, culminating his current role as Chief Marketing Officer at GoGo squeeZ. Without further ado, here's Mark Edmonson and your host, Guru Hariharan.
Mark, it's fantastic to have you on the pod. We've known each other for quite a bit now and would love to, and I've been really looking forward to unraveling what's behind your career and behind the Zoom screen. So thank you for making time for us.
No, thank you for having me.
Awesome. So, well, Mark, I would love to just start with your early life and just as a roadmap for this next, say, call it 40, 50 minutes, is we'll talk about your early life, values that you picked up and stuff. And then we'll go into your career, decisions that you made, learnings that you've had, successes and failures that you've had. And then finally, a few rapid fire questions about your personal life. So that's going to be our roadmap for today. So with that, like maybe jump into your early life. I would love to understand where you grew up and what was life growing up in your family.
Yeah, absolutely. So my origin story, I'm from Louisiana. Most people, based on my equity, probably don't know that I grew up on a farm. My parents owned a farm. We produced vegetables that sourced, those vegetables were sourced for our farm-to-table restaurant, which was way ahead of its time. I actually come from a family of entrepreneurs. My father, my grandfather, their parents, all were entrepreneurs in an age in Louisiana that wasn't super supportive to African Americans. My father, high school education, my mother, high school education. I was super impressed over the fact that they were able to manage their own business and be quite successful at it. So yeah, a country farm boy from Florine, Louisiana, really the things that I learned about growing up on a farm was accountability. So my parents kept me accountable for everything. I, not only had to go to school, but I also had to wake up, feed animals, come home after school, pick vegetables. And I always thought, wow, if I got into sports or any other extra curriculum, I wouldn't have to do any of this. Not the case. And that's when, I then learned focus. My parents, really pushed me to be focused on what was the true priorities. And the true priorities was one, making sure that I achieved a higher education, but then in addition to that, still keeping the farm life going and the restaurant going. And I mentioned, respect of my parents. I highly respected them because for them to accomplish so much during this time where in Louisiana in the 1970s, they hadn't even integrated yet. So they were still going to all Black schools, while Caucasians were going to all white schools. It's quite shocking that in the 70s that was still happening. So I learned how to respect people and where they came from and their journey at a very early age. So that's where I'm from. My parents, it was only two of us, my sister, who we both decided to leave the farm and leave the life of Louisiana. She's an attorney in Arizona with her family. I left quickly and started venturing off into my career.
That's an incredible story to grow up in, and having having really in early days starting to uh, understand the importance of focus. Looks like you did not get a easy pass just because you were pursuing higher studies and all that. You had to do your quote unquote chores, do your duties at home,
Yeah.
and still earn your badge.
And I will tell you, my sister didn't make that easy because she was valedictorian of her high school class. So
Okay.
of course I was super competitive. So I had to also be valedictorian of my class. So it was a bit of competition there as well. So yeah,
That's great. That's great. It's good to have that competition early in the life
Mhm.
among siblings. And you then decided to go on to study math and computer science. Now, having grown up on a farmland and 70s and 80s, how did that come about? What attracted you to computer science?
Yeah, I always think teachers, high school teachers, have the biggest job ever because they're molding students to be the humans that they are today. Underpaid, but they are kind of the foundation of people. And I have to credit one of my high school teachers, uh, Beverly Sally, who basically was so good at teaching mathematics. I understood every single equation that she was teaching us how to solve problems. And I didn't learn to love math. What I learned over time, and as I reflect back, I loved solving problems. So at that time, I thought, oh, I could just be a math teacher because I love what she's doing. And I love how she teaches and educates students, and she's giving back. So I went into the field of mathematics. But when I went into that field and I attended a historical Black college and university in Louisiana, I became aware of computer science and how they were linked, and how computer science is helping people solve problems through programming. And so I became extremely interested in that. Ended up doing internships with IBM. I did an internship with Microsoft. And I just, loved the idea of being a part of that world. For IBM, I did a lot of hacking and functional verification testing. And for Microsoft, it was more programming. But after about, 4 years of that in undergrad, I started yearning for something else. I just realized that those jobs, I was in my own bubble and I was given a task and I had to achieve that task. Whereas I yearned for knowing how it was going to impact someone else or how it was going to impact the business. So that's when I got the lovely call from P&G to do an internship in their digital marketing department. And that propelled me into a whole different career path. Because I think when you're younger, you're not exposed to all the fields, right? You're
Yeah.
only exposed to what you're seeing in high school, a little bit of what you're seeing in college. But then these internships allow you to have that exposure to be able to become more aware of the career paths that you could potentially take.
And what not to pursue also. Like that's
Oh my
it's like you tried a whole lot of things, which is a fantastic idea. And many of us are parents of kids who are becoming teenagers and stuff. And it's one of the one of the very key lessons to take away.
I love,
Try some internships to see what's work. What do you like? What do you not? Right.
yeah, I love that because I did not like programming. I was actually really good at it. I loved it, but I just wasn't in love with it.
Mhm.
I kept yearning for something more. And to your point, you don't find out that until you experience it. And I'm very thankful that, I was able to have those internship experiences to figure it all out.
Yeah, no, I think it's very interesting. You bring up we probably in and around the same time that you went to IBM, I had the same sort of an internship experience, and I learned what I did not love. To your point, I think you put it very beautifully. In For me, it was when I went to I joined IBM Research. It was like one of the things that bucket list things that I wanted to accomplish, and I felt I've made it. But then joined IBM Research, and wasn't theoretical research. I just hated it. Like I just hated it. It was all that honeymoon from outside in, but once you got in, and guess what? The internship just gave a nice, like a two-way door. I could walk out of that and say, you know what? Theoretical research is not for me. I need to do something practical and applications and stuff like that.
Totally.
That's it's definitely it's a cool hack to try a few things.
I totally agree.
And how did you get into P&G now? Computer science, like P&G doesn't call into computer scientists, computer science schools. So I'm very curious how you took that and how you got that break.
Yeah, I credit going to a historical Black college and university. They did such an incredible job at bringing manufacturers, companies into our university to discuss different career paths. And luckily, there were alumni from Grambling State that were employees of P&G that would come down every semester and talk about the job opportunities that were there. So I ended up saying, you know what, why not? And ended up interviewing for internship, and I was able to achieve accepting it. So that's pretty much how it happened. And by the way, I can never forget the first conversation with my first boss, Andy Walter, because I was confused on, wait, I have a computer science degree. You're a huge marketing advertising company. Why do you want me? And he was able to explain how the critical thinking, problem solving could actually help enable marketers to understand how to best leverage technology. And boy, did I just light up, because it married everything that I was yearning for from IBM and the Microsoft experiences, and it started giving me that passion point that I was looking for.
It's very interesting you bring up sort of identifying somebody like Andy, in this case, identifying that and just positioning and framing the problem solving elements of marketing to you. That was, looking back, it was definitely he was definitely ahead of his times in terms of framing it that way. Today we think about analytical marketing. That's literally 50% of, or more than 50% of what we do, the other being brand and others. But it's pretty interesting that he pointed that element. And also, I think for leaders, computer science, when you look at computer science, you can sort of either bucket them as IT, or you can look at them as strong problem solvers. Because to your point, a lot of what you do in computer sciences is understand how to solve problems through algorithms, data structures, and things like that. It really trains you to sort of handle complex situations in a much more structured way.
I think
kudos to both Andy and to you to sort of figuring that out early in your life and pursuing that.
And I think that has helped propel me into the career that I'm in, and the success that I've had and the failures that I've had. The problem solving element of my degree really, really helped me tremendously.
Now, going back to the school that you made, looks like you made a choice to go to an African-American school. Was that an intentional choice, or didn't it occur to you that this was the time for me to say, to not make that choice and maybe go to an Ivy League or like an East Coast school that you come across now and then? So what was the reasoning and thought process behind behind that, and especially asking for all of us sort of from coming in with a from a place of a background of color?
Yeah, that's such a great question, and I got it a lot when I made my decision, because being valedictorian of your class, you pretty much are able to go anywhere. In the state of Louisiana, being the top 5% of your class, you actually got a free ride to any university in the state. I
Wow.
chose Grambling State University mainly because, number one, uh, the the parish, Sabine Parish, Louisiana has parishes versus counties. The parish in which I lived in was predominantly Caucasian. I wanted to experience the Black experience. I wanted to go to and learn more about my culture. And I thought that that was going to be an important element. Of course, my family being Black, I learned our culture, but I wanted to learn more about a Black experience. Then, in addition to that, when I started looking into Grambling State University, the opportunities were endless. I can never forget when I first started attending there, I could do research projects and make $500 every month, doing analytics for NASA, or there were just a host of different companies asking Grambling computer science majors to do work, and you get paid for it. I was like, oh, sign me up for that. Like, that's amazing. But then the third reason, my sister also attended Grambling State University. We are 7 years apart, so I was able to see her success in attending a historical Black college and university. And I just thought that that would be such an important thing for me to do as well. And that's one of the reasons why I chose the school.
And how did that, looking back, what would you think? Let's say you had gone, like, given you were a valedictorian, let's say you went to a Louisiana state, or perhaps got out and maybe go to a neighboring, like in Texas, Austin, or something like that. Like, how do you think that your career would have panned out? You know, it's very hard to sort of do a if else, but would love to just, for the benefit of folks making such decisions at this point for themselves or for their kids, would love to understand how you think about the path it would have taken you if you had taken that choice.
Yeah, that's a great question. I think that if I would decide to go to Louisiana State University, I may have gotten lost in their bigness. Grambling State University is a very small liberal arts college. The professors, the one-on-one time that you would have with the professors were so critical in the development of who I am today. I don't know if I would have been able to achieve that. I think a lot of people want to go to those big universities to get the big college experience. I believe I still got the big college experience, but at a much smaller scale, and an intimate relationship with all the professors there on the university. I mean, you know them by name, you could ask them questions offline. It just felt like a good friend that you were going to, versus a professor that, probably just knew you by number.
Yeah, I think it's a fantastic juxtaposition that you made, and it can be very helpful. So thanks for sharing that. Now, getting into kind of your career start, you talked about taking up a role in the marketing organization in P&G. Did you find yourself fish out of water with a lot of brand marketers around you, and you were the math and computer science guy? Did you ever get asked, are you in the wrong building?
Well, the first part was country boy going into the city of Cincinnati. So that was a fun stage of life, and never had experienced snow to the point of Cincinnati. So that was another wonderful experience. But it was interesting because I think at that juncture at P&G, marketers didn't really know much about the internet. And back then, it wasn't even called digital marketing. it was interactive marketing. And I was actually in the IT function. So I had brand managers and directors trying to figure out, okay, what do we do with this online space? And I can never forget, there was a brand director who basically was like, I sell dish detergent. Why would I run an ad for dish detergent online? And I was the problem solver who had to explain, oh, we can do targeting and data analytics to, find your consumer and target them with the right messaging. We were even doing digital creative optimizations back then. So it was a joy. And I think that the marketers embraced us. It was one of the highly coveted roles in IT at P&G because marketers loved the fact that they could go to this digital expert and they could tell them how to manage the digital world. And I think for me, and one of the things that I do in my career, I'm always looking for points of differentiation. So by then I knew that I wanted to be a marketer. And I then knew that my point of differentiation versus these guys with MBAs and have all this brand experience, my point of differentiation would be digital because they had the experience of brand marketing. I didn't have, I was building that skill set, but I would be able to leapfrog them as it relates to the skill set of digital marketing.
That's so good. So you were kind of like the biscuit on the floor saying anything around that is nearly close to internet and nearly close to sort of analytics and stuff. It's like, oh yeah, let's ask Mark.
Oh yeah, we need a website. Where's Mark? And I didn't mind it. It was allowing me to learn not only just the business, but also helping them build a capability, build a skill set. And I also would say that building relationships was critical because you didn't want to tell a marketer, well, you don't know digital. You could actually help marketers learn the skill set. So I was also almost like an educator of helping them build a skill, which would return dividends in the future for me because those individuals that learned from me helped me grow my career in the future.
The point of differentiation that you're talking about is so interesting. It's oftentimes when you keep doing the same thing, the same kind of people, if you may, I'm doing air quotes, who are at a certain problem. And it's almost like it seems like heresy to bring somebody outside in to look at it like, people don't think about sort of bringing a fresh perspective, but time is to tell, like looking back in say, whether it's your career, like you talked about, and you've had such a nice fast growth because of that point of differentiation that you established. You've also had like, if you look at say car industry, Elon Musk, a technologist coming into a traditional car industry. What the hell is a computer scientist doing in a car industry? Or say, for even things like bioinformatics, the first people who did like, what is a computer scientist doing in biology? So, but getting some of that like external perspective, getting a smart problem solver, perhaps, or at the very least, mixing two different backgrounds together can create, sometimes just helps you think out of the box. I'm just curious, like if you have given that as a background, do you intentionally sort of look for people from different backgrounds as you're composing your team?
Oh my gosh, it's so critical. It is so critical to find that diversity of thought leadership and being able to have that mixed background. I think is super important. I never just look at a person's accomplishments. I always pan down to see where did they start? And it's just amazing. Like I recall having a person who reported into me who had an art background and was a marketer now. And people were like, oh no, they're, art major. What do they know about marketing? A lot. And it was a critical thinking and creativity that I love that that person could bring to bear from our marketing team. So I definitely believe that having that interesting and because by the way, not everybody's going to nail it their first time. You'll go and get a degree in something and just realize, oh no, that was not it. My sister has a degree in history and she's an attorney. So that, you're never going to nail it the first time. And I do believe that, um, you know, you have to give people the benefit of the doubt that that experience that they have is going to help them flourish in whichever career path they've chosen.
I think that's great to hear you talk about it that way. Now, also looking back, now you were in P&G in a world-class CPG in the last recession that we had, and many may argue we are already in one, but definitely we're looking at one coming up. Any key lessons that you remember from good and bad things that you took away, like what to do and what not to do in the upcoming recession?
Yeah, I was in the best organization at the time. I was in a scale marketing role, where I was looking across all the brands and identifying where they were spending big dollars to actually create a marketing platform for all brands to fit into. So it was a amazing journey during such a rough time here in the US. But again, problem solving, Mark decided to, help the brand save dollars from a marketing perspective, where dollars were being cut so that they could still achieve their marketing objectives. The things that I, am watching out for as we go into a recession is accessibility and being accessible to all. I truly believe that, you know, you don't want to alienate your brand just because someone can't afford it. Now, there's certain brands out there that are designed for a different demographic, but when it comes to food and consumables, I do believe that that is something to watch out for. You've now developed this love mark that consumers want and yearn you. You don't want to leave them behind due to the fact that things are becoming more expensive. So how are you developing strategies to hold on to those amazing consumers who bought into your brand that may not be able to afford them moving forward? So I do think that that has been my biggest lesson learned during the prior recession. And here at GoGo squeeZ is something that we continue to keep our eye on. We're a super premium brand, but we want to still be a beacon of nurture to all consumers. We want to provide healthy, nutritious snacks for every single kid here in America. So as we are, to your point, looking dead-eye into this recession, I just want to make sure that we have the appropriate strategies to still win with low-income shoppers as well.
Got it. So it looks like two things that you're looking to apply. One is definitely looking at things from first principles to see where is the, if there's an investment cut coming, where should that investment cut be? And being analytical, and you do a problem solving exercise as opposed to like a gut feel check of cutting A or B.
Absolutely.
The second thing you're talking about is using this opportunity to increase your brand presence, give a little bit more surface area for your brand presence, rather than it's a great opportunity to sort of improve ubiquity of the brand, because these sort of situations are where you're starting to see a lot more consumers come into the market, and rather than going to a restaurant, they're looking at maybe buying groceries online.
Absolutely.
So an opportunity for you to increase the surface area of your shoppers in a way.
Absolutely. You're absolutely correct. I mean, and this is not the time to just stop and start giving out significant amount of discounts through promotions. This is the time to explain why you fit into the life of the consumer. So I'm really looking forward to, not looking forward to the recession, but I'm looking forward to, ensuring that we have the right strategies to be recession proof.
Some great learnings coming from there. And after P&G, you decided to move to Campbell Soup, if I'm not mistaken. How did that come across, that opportunity come across?
Yeah, the passion for food. I grew up on the farm. I love food. So the natural next step was to go to a food company. And the Campbell Soup Company, which owned Pepperidge Farm, was the perfect fit. Coming from P&G, I was able to work on one of the most iconic kids snack brands here in the US, Goldfish crackers, and being able to help transform them into the brand that they are today. Being able to take the learnings and the experiences that I had at P&G, things like digital marketing. I had e-commerce experience coming from P&G. So I was able to apply some of those skills and build strategies for that brand to help them win within the market.
That's great. And while at Campbell, was there are there some key lessons that you took away? It looks like you got back to pursuing your interest in food. Just wondering if there was something, some takeaways that you had from your experience there.
Yeah, not every company is the same. I, I think that most people have a perception once you leave a company, the same mechanics, and maybe it was just me, but the same mechanics are in place. The culture is pretty much the same. It was my first time leaving a full-time position and going to a different manufacturer. And I was shocked. I had the sticker shock for the first 3 months. And it wasn't because the culture was bad. It wasn't because the people were bad. I was missing all these resources from P&G that I didn't have. But the lesson that I learned that I was able to take to other experiences was that, number one, you're not always going to get the resources, the max resources. So how can you work within a limited resource environment? So that was perfect because that was a skill that I didn't have and I needed to build that. The other lesson that I learned was that continuously developing relationships. When I joined Pepperidge Farm, we were not connected to the Campbell Soup Company. We were operating kind of as our own standalone.
Oh, really?
But I had started reaching out to the folks at Campbell's and trying to understand how do they operate and what are their business planning processes and how are they briefing agencies and which agencies are you using? Because I wanted to, learn from them, but also share with them my experiences that I was having on the brand, just to develop a relationship. It wasn't forced on, like I wasn't told to do this. It was mainly for me to try to develop relationships. Relationships for me in my career are so important because people are important. And I wasn't just, asking, hey, my name is Mark, I work on Goldfish. Can you tell me your processes? No, I would actually say, let's go out to happy hour. And I would love to know what you do at Campbell's and let's talk about life. And that allowed me to have now some of the best friends that I've ever had in my career, because I've now not only just developed a business relationship, I developed a personal relationship. And that was something that was a remarkable learning for me and early into my career.
And clearly, so I think taking the being open-minded to a different type of working and reaching out, raising your hand, developing those relationships, clearly looks like that worked out for you. How do you sort of juxtapose that with, say, when people talk about e-commerce, they say, well, e-commerce is all about like algorithms and machines and stuff like that. where you're bringing a very important point that, well, at the end of the day, relationships matter. So how do we reconcile now that you're steeped into e-commerce and you still are a believer in relationships? Help me thread the needle on that.
Yeah. Basically, e-commerce, especially at the Campbell Soup Company, was fairly new territory for them. You think about it, you have heavy, cheap items like soup or beverages like V8. You have items like goldfish that is perfect for the e-commerce environment because of the multi-purpose use or the easeability of shipping, and being able to help people understand that in the e-commerce world, it is okay to fail. And I think that was the first time in my career where I started the conversation off with, I don't know how this is going to perform. Like, I wanted to be completely upfront, honest, because I actually didn't know. And I think I gained a lot of respect for saying that and helping them understand a plan of action on how we were going to learn together. Again, the relationship part. I'm not just coming in to run your e-commerce business, because I do believe that marketers should know e-commerce. It's a skill set that we all need to know. But now, how can we actually learn together so that we can grow our e-commerce business more profitably? And one of the things that I can never forget, our director of e-commerce would always say, she would say, e-commerce is more than just a sales channel. It's a marketing vehicle. So as I was holding everyone's hand and we were holding hands together to go off into this adventure, selling, cheap, heavy items, we knew that it wasn't just about sales, because we would fail if that was our only KPI, but it was all about helping our consumer understand the equity of our brands in the online space, because we knew that that was going to be the first place consumers would go to learn about our products, versus going to a brand website where it's all this great content, but ratings and reviews were so critical. And Amazon, amazing organization that's built ratings and reviews quite well, that's where our consumer was going. So, I enjoyed that because I was being kind of like an educator of a tool or capability while helping people fail and learn as we go.
I think that's really ahead of its times especially in the beginning part of last decade, especially for a category like soup or like crackers, to really think about it as a marketing vehicle and not just a sales channel. It seems like the foundations were pretty strong, and some good learnings over there for you.
Especially when marketers, I can say I did this before as well, we look at the P&L. We're always constantly looking at the P&L. E-commerce comes with a lot of heavy weight, from logistic costs to setup costs, shipping. So you would fail if that was your only KPI. And I do believe that we don't give ourselves enough credit in regards to having our content strong, our ratings and reviews strong. That's going to actually help propel the brand, not only just online, but offline as well.
It's interesting how just reframing an investment as either a marketing investment or a cost below the line that you have to incur, it can really have a huge impact. Like, I remember being in Amazon in the early days of Amazon Prime. Amazon used to get a lot of flack from the street saying, why the hell would you give away 2-day free shipping? Like, that's just incredibly stupid. Like, you're just draining money down the toilet. And I still remember how Bezos positioned it to the world, saying, we don't spend money on Super Bowl ads. Now is a different, 20 years later, sure, it's a different story, but don't spend money. Prime is a marketing spend for me. Don't look at it as a fulfillment spend. It is a marketing spend. Prime is how we're going to essentially create lifetime value in this company with customers. And sure enough, it worked out for them. And it's very interesting to sort of think about what was happening on the brand side as you were unraveling the story at Campbell's.
Because both of those examples is all about delighting the consumer and giving the consumer the information or the services that they need, that will, make their lives more easier.
Yeah, exactly. Spot on. Now, going from there to building on that foundation, you then took up a job as the e-commerce VP, business VP at Henkel. I'm curious, what gave the Henkel team the confidence to give you the baton to lead their e-commerce business?
It goes back to relationships. I knew an individual from Campbell's that knew my e-commerce experiences, knew that I had strong strategy frameworks, that I like to get my hands dirty on execution, even at a VP level. And he gave a very strong recommendation that I should be on that business. And that's the part that I appreciate the most. Again, building and fostering relationships truly help propel your career. And I was only at Henkel for about a year when they promoted me into that role. And I can never forget, I was just so shocked because I thought, at some point I would get there, but not that quick. And I never ask for promotions. I think that's a lot of people probably are, dying to get promoted. And I don't believe in asking. If you do your job, you do it well, you not just only meet expectations, but exceed expectations, the promotion will come. And that's a lesson that I've learned over time. Even at P&G, I never begged, asked to be promoted. It just naturally happened, and it takes the stress off of you. You're able to just relax and just focus on doing a great job and having fun while doing it, versus so focused on when can I get to the next level? Because I will tell you that I never saw this coming in regards to being the CMO here at Matern North America. Again, through relationships, someone knew me, recommended me, and poof, I'm here. There was no begging, asking. I just talked about my experiences, and this organization has given me the opportunity to showcase my experiences and my passion for developing people and building brands. So that is one big, maybe it's just my lesson, but I do believe that people should not focus on what's next immediately. Just relax and allow that to come naturally.
I think a few things that I'm taking away in like a lot of in this day and age of just instant gratification.
Yeah.
You were kind of talking about how you invested in relationships without really an outcome in mind, and you keep building these relationships, and you get pleasure out of it, you get happiness out of it, but also it pays off at some point in the future. Some do, some do not, but the ones that do have really gotten you further in your career. So it's kind of very interesting to sort of think about it from the perspective of just investing forward in human relationships.
And I love the fact that you said, you're not thinking about what you're going to get out of that relationship. Because if you go into the relationship and have this preset, I'm going to get this person to do this for me in the future, it's fake.
So how do you think, like, you're a busy man, you've been a busy guy in Campbell's, you were a busy person at P&G. How much, how do you sort of take time off? Like, aren't you like, okay, well, I'm done with my job at 6 p.m. I can't get back to home and just, get my dinner and sleep. You reached out to somebody and you said, let's grab a drink. I'm just curious, like, how did you think about investing in the right type of relationships, or who did you reach out to? And did you actually set up some time or goals for yourself saying, I need to build certain number of relationships or spend so much time on building relationships? Would love to just unravel that a bit.
Yeah, I wish it was a strategy that I had. It was more of just probably how I grew up. Like my father, when he was alive, he had developed so many relationships, and I just would see how many people loved him and respected him. And he would have people over for dinners, and it was just uh, again, the respect that I had for him in regards to how he managed his life and his friends and his colleagues through just developing strong relationships. I do think that I learned that from him. And I can never forget during his funeral, small town, they actually drove his hearse around the city so that people could see him.
Wow.
That's how I want to, go out. I want people to, if I were to die tomorrow, I would want people to be happy that they knew me, and that they had a relationship with me. And I think I build relationships not to help myself, but I actually build relationships to help others. Because I do think that in this world that we're living in with so much divide, we need people to be able to help others. And in any way that I can, that's what I do. So all the people that have ever reported to me, if they reach out and say, "Hey, Mark, can I, have a cocktail?" I say yes. And I just manage my schedule to be able to do it. It may not be an hour, it's like 30 minutes or 15 minutes, but I want to be able to take the time to hear what they have to say and see how I could potentially help.
That's incredible to hear. First of all, great story about your father in his final days, and also great to hear about just intentionally building relationships for the sake of it, like for the sake, not for an outcome, but really doing it because that's who you are. That's what's authentic to you. In a way, it's also a story of authenticity. That's what I'm also hearing, which is be true to yourself, do what comes naturally, and do it well, do it with all your heart, and it'll pay for it. Outcome will come later. Right?
You're absolutely correct.
Yeah. Well, great. Thanks for sharing that. Like it's now coming to some not so interesting, but would love, our audience is always interested in sort of predictions from people who've been around the block and trends that you're seeing. Would love to understand, like you're a technologist, you're a CPG exec. What are some technology trends that you're paying attention to in both short and long term as you look at investments into your business or just overall for the CPG industry?
Yeah, it's such a great question. And the trends in e-commerce, I think, are the trends that I keep my eye on, especially when it comes around e-commerce pivoting around Web3, where businesses will use DeFi trends to boost their profiles to new heights. NFTs is another area of opportunity that I want to explore more and figure out how our brand can grow into that space. Um, data. Data is going to be king. It's always been king, but it's so incredibly important now than ever. It's especially as we prepare for cookies going away, but then also with retail media groups being more open to sharing information through clean rooms. I think that that's going to be incredibly important for brands to have their own data to bring and be able to do segmentation and identify how to target your consumers more effectively. So those are some of the big trends that I'm looking into right now.
Those are good ones. And how about, like, in terms of, say, when it comes to retail e-commerce, especially you talked about retail media and the clean rooms that you talked about. Those are frankly very interesting as I look at it. Are there other things that come to your mind with respect to like predictions in terms of what will drive retail e-commerce over the next, say, call it 5 to 10 years?
Well, hasn't it been incredible, this boom? Like, I still remember Triad Digital, which owned the majority of retail media for retail partners, and partnering with them to grow your brand within their space, I would have never imagined it to be this big. And I think it's getting even bigger because consumers are everywhere. They're always on. And we no longer have these shopper journeys that, we know that the shopper do this and this, and it's now just all over the board because the consumer is now the shopper, because the consumer can buy whenever, however they want it. And so, with retail media groups, I think that the biggest collide is going to be where your national media partners will now compete with these retail media partners, if they're not already doing that today. Where I recall, I was spending probably 10 to 15% on shopper media. In the future, you might be spending 50-50 or even more, because of the type of data that these retail media groups have, because of the insights that they can provide and how it could potentially grow your business. So I think that that's going to be the shift that we're going to start seeing here shortly.
I oftentimes hear the word accountable media with retail media, because now if you can truly sort of, and you can get close to that and sort of really trying to measure what is the true incrementality of every dollar being spent. And that way it's not like a TV ad where you don't know what it did to you, but you can truly see the impact. Well, one final question before I let you go, Mark. What's kind of next or left on your bucket list to accomplish?
Like I say, I never plan, but what I would love to be able to do right now for the brand that I'm on in the short term is just to continue to grow the people. I have an incredible marketing team that is just learning and growing and helping us build this love mark. That's one big piece on my agenda. But then the second piece is to be recognized, our brand, to be recognized as a power snacking house. And I think a lot of people see GoGo squeeZ as just a kid snack, applesauce, but we're more than just an applesauce. And I want to be that leader who enables the brand to become an iconic brand here in North America.
That's awesome. So great to have you, Mark Edmonson, CMO at GoGo squeeZ, a farm boy at heart, but one of the most promising executives of our times. Thank you for being on the show.
Thank you so much for having me.
If you enjoyed listening to this episode, it would mean so much to us if you could take a moment to share this show on LinkedIn. To learn more how Guru and his team can help optimize and grow your e-commerce business on Amazon and other retailers, visit commerceiq.ai. Thanks for listening.